To move forward, time is ticking and slipping away. Love always reminds me to move forward. Winds blow and clouds come and go. Love always reminds me to move forward. Happiness in my hands. Life is so in my heart helps me move forward. Life is no longer stranded. The world is grand. Life is in my hands. Love always helps me move forward. Always cultivate before time fades away. Time passes, blink of an eye. We cannot go back in time. Let's get together. Straight forward. Love always helps me move forward. Make my life shine and be the star of life. It's always bright. Love always reminds me to move forward. Time is ticking and slipping away. Love always reminds me to move forward. Winds blow and clouds come and go. Love always reminds me to move forward. Happiness in my hands. Life is so grand. Love always reminds me to move forward. Time passes year after year. Love always reminds me to move forward. Winds blow and clouds come and go. Love always reminds me to move forward. Endless happiness makes my life so grand. An amazing life is always in my hands.
Hello and welcome to our Super Life Secret Codes online workshop. My name is Ryan Sway, and first I'd like to thank Master Sun for providing us these great tools to improve our lives. I also want to thank our panelists and all the participants from around the world. Super Life Secret Codes teaches us how to take control of life using energy management. The book was written as a life manual, focusing on the two codes of love and gratitude. If used properly, these two codes can help us achieve success in every aspect of our lives. Okay, good evening and welcome everyone. Again, today, we're reading in the Abundance book, and the topic for today is to improve our own capabilities to make sure that we're ready for abundance. I think for a lot of people, this isn't something they think about. They just kind of focus on, will or when will abundance arrive? And for some people, it comes through, but because you don't have what it takes to kind of hold on to it or to build it, it just goes and it leaves you. So do you think back into your own lives, all the different opportunities that have come by? As I look in my own life, I saw these opportunities from years ago, and one in particular really stands out. And this was like when I was like 20, it was, maybe 26 in life. I was pretty young, and I had this really great opportunity for a business deal. And I remember as I was thinking about this business deal, I was already thinking about like where to spend the money, what I was going to buy, talking to my friends, like, we're going to go do this, we're going to go do that. And as I think back to it, a lot of what I was talking about was kind of wasteful. Kind of like, what kids would do with a bunch of money. And I ended up losing that deal. I was pretty surprised, but it was one of those situations where I wasn't ready for it. As I look back, I'm grateful that I didn't get it, because I feel like if I did, I probably would ruin myself with this type of money and not having the capability or the wherewithal to, hold on to this money and do something good with it. So I'm grateful that, that didn't happen, and, went through other challenges in life with businesses and stuff to learn, so as to build my own ability to say receive, big deals or, money. And I think for a lot of people, we don't think about that, especially when you're young. You just think about getting the deals and you'll figure it out. But in this case, as we're reading this book, you want to think about it that, Master Sun is teaching us how to get abundance and how to receive it, how to hold on to it. So it's not a question of if you're going to get abundance, it's kind of when. And it's very important that we pay attention to this section, because if you're not ready, if you don't have the capability, if you don't kind of have the respect towards money and all the things that comes with it, it's very easy to lose it. And so as we think about what we're trying to be, what our abundance is in life, we want to make sure we're ready for that. And with each person in, different age, different life, different lifestyles, it's a very different definition of abundance. When I was single, as a single guy, you want to meet lots of girls. When you're married, you don't want to meet lots of girls. That's not abundance. That's like a headache. So you may want other things in life. You want lots of children. When you're single, you definitely don't want lots of children. So like these all kind of, are differences in different times of life and different lifestyles. And again, we have to be ready for it. We have to have the ability to, if it's to have kids, be able to raise them properly and do all these things. And if it's to meet someone, you have to be ready for that too. So this is an important section. And I think it's one of the, not few, but one of the few sections in the book that really emphasizes us to do something to kind of like improve or make sure we're ready for this. For a lot of people, again, I think they focus on where is this abundance? How is it going to get here? Not so much when it gets here, what am I going to do with it? And so I think it's, again, very important that we do that. So we will be reading in that shortly. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Vivian from Walnut, California, and we have Amy from Las Vegas, Nevada. So thank you, panelists. And again, the format of the book is a dialogue between Master Sun and a student. So I will be reading Master Sun's section, and if you hear my voice, then you know those are the words of Master Sun. And Amy and Vivian will be reading the student section. So when you hear their voices, you know those are the words of the student. Okay. With that, we will kick it off with page 130, and Vivian and I will be reading.
I think I will start. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Section 5. The arrival of 5 blessings. When abundance is knocking at our door. Master, what would you like to teach us today?
Last session, we spoke about the meaning of abundance. Today, let us talk in depth about how we embrace abundance.
Embrace abundance? Excellent. This reminds me of a friend. He ran a small company. He worked really hard, hustling every day, trying to promote his product all over the world. Suddenly, one day, a big company came and cut a large order to him. He could not believe it. The purchase order was right in front of him. It was like a dream. It was exciting. But at the same time, he became anxious, reading the content of the contract, clause by clause. The more he read, the more anxious he became. Every clause appeared unfair to him. He felt as if he had fallen from the top of heaven all the way down to hell. He started hesitating and then rethinking if he should work with the big company.
This is indeed a struggle for a small company. If they do not deliver on time, the huge penalty may cause bankruptcy to the small company.
Correct. Prior to that, it was mostly retail and the volume of products was small. This order from the big company had many more zeros than the volume he was used to. Of course, he was attracted to it, but looking at the strict and unfair clauses, it was also a pain. Should he accept the order? Would this bring disaster to the company?
The situation faced by your friend is a good example of abundance knocking at your door. But considering the many real-life factors, he could not proceed. If he could meet all the stringent conditions and demands imposed by the big company, today he would be rich.
Yes, looks like it. But the many stringent conditions were deal breakers, and he was worried he could not fulfill the conditions, and he could not bear the penalty if he failed. It was a big waste of opportunity.
Okay, Vivian, would you like to share?
Yes. Yeah, thanks for letting me read this section. The example that Master Sun mentioned described a person who receives a big order. However, after reviewing the contract, he finds a few unfair clauses that make him hesitate to proceed. On one hand, he really wants to take the deal because it's a great opportunity with a lot of zero, more than what he used to receive the order. And on the other hand, he worries about whether he can handle it. He also worries about he will get a penalty if he cannot make it. But he also thinks if he gives up, it feels like such a pity to lose a good chance. From here, I realize that when opportunity knocks on our door, if we haven't prepared well in advance, worry and hesitation will naturally arise. At that moment, should we complain that the opportunity came at the wrong time? Or should we reflect on our own lack of preparation? Through learning the Super Life Secret Code system, Master Sun teaches us to learn from everything and everyone around us. This will help us face challenges with wisdom and avoid frustration and regret in the future. I think of a recent case at work. One of my coworkers in Asia was preparing a report that involved very complicated data and calculations, a lot of formulas. The final figures look unusual. It's so the number is too high. And when we review them, we discover some mistakes in the formula. And at that moment, should we have blamed the coworker, or should the coworker have blamed the complicated data? Instead, we discuss it with another coworker, and then we design a new formula that can detect such mistakes in the future. Again, from this incident, I also realized that in life, we constantly encounter many messages, different people, and complex situations, both good or bad. And then just like my coworker's complicated task, this reflects the material world. If we don't practice spiritual cultivation, our minds can easily become tangled and confused, leading us into the delusions and the entanglement of materialism. And I feel truly fortunate and grateful to be learning from Superlife Secret Code system through Master Song's books, songs, and different workshops. I've been able to correct many of my mistaken ideas and then learn deeper truths. I'm also thankful to learn from Mr. Cai's Dizi Gui, which teaches us how to stop energy leakage by correcting bad habits. Just like how our coworker created a new formula to detect errors in advance, stop the leaking. And then I also think of a friend. When we chat, she often complained about her son and said their relationship was poor. And I share with her the input and output concept that I learned from Master Son. And eventually she realized that she had always blamed her son for not understanding how busy her schedule was. She said that when she was little, her parents were also very busy supporting 6 children. And her parents seldom spent time with them, but she understood and tolerated. Later, when she became a doctor, she followed the same pattern like her parents, working hard, working constantly in a busy mode, and rarely joining her son's activities. After her son grew up and had a good career, she felt he was greedy because he often asked her for money. Through our conversation, we discovered that her son didn't truly care about the money. He was eager to get her attention and then love. Since when her son was little, she always spent time working and working and working because she was a doctor. And because she had often blamed and argued with her son, her energy kept dropping and then trapping her in emotional entanglement. Now that she kind of understands the principle of cause and effect, I hope she can apply this correct formula from the Superlife Secret Code system to stop her energy leakage and improve her relationship with her son. Thank you. This is just my sharing.
Thank you, Vivian, for your reading and sharing on that. Um, I know like your company is like one of those bigger companies, and so you're ready for the big orders and stuff. In the story, Master Son, the student was talking about the company that not ready, maybe couldn't handle it. I wonder for like a big company. What are some things that you guys kind of, at least in your department, that you see that kind of prepares yourself for large volume or allows yourself to be ready for that? Is there anything you can share? I know some of it might be private, but whatever you can share.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the recent case. It's not purchase, it's return. We sold to one big company, like 12,000 to 15,000 units of monitors. And then suddenly they need to return this many units back to us. You can see the warranty cost will be so high. Because it's still winning warranty, we have to replace all. And then so at this moment, we prepare to discuss with the vendor because we have business unit group to fight with the vendors because we think this vendor's fault because some of the cord attached to the laptop caused the power leaking. So our customer want to return this 12,000 unit to 15,000 unit back to us, but we think this vendor's fault. So one want the money. So that big company want the money from us because they return all unit to us. But we cannot absorb this cost. This warranty costs might be higher up to $1.5 million. So we can, so do you think we want to spend this $1.5 million on warranty costs? Definitely not. So we have to think of another way to fight with the vendor. Even though right now vendor try to blame it's the laptop's fault. It's not their fault. But after we discuss and then we all know this is the vendor's fault. Because they forgot one parts. Okay, so that's why it caused the laptop get a power leaking. So we are still negotiating the case, but I think this also make our company to learn, okay, because even though we have good relationship with the vendor, we have long business relationship with the vendor, but I think this also teach our BU, okay, in the future when they deal with a vendor, what kind of detail they need to work on with the vendor in the future, because this is the first time we got such a big quantity, huge quantity return. We never have such huge quantity return, but definitely I send a blessing to my company because this recently the sales, okay, is also not that good, okay, because of the economy. Our sales also drop. And then if sales drop and the warranty cost increase, our bottom lines will look really bad, right? So I think it's like the older group work together, okay, to deal with this case, and then we also rely on the BU to come and have the good deal with the vendor. Just like recently, I have a meeting with the our operation team. Try to work on this warranty cost. So everybody played a key role on this big case. So this is something, okay, we cannot just say whatever, we just satisfy customers, just pay back because they return this many units. So we have to reimburse them all the units. But at the same time, we also think about other way to find a reimbursement from our vendor. So hopefully we'll get a win-win situation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I think as we talk about abundance, we have to kind of understand that abundance doesn't just mean like unlimited amounts of just, money or whatever you're looking for in abundance to be wasted even. So I think it's a great example, your company is a big company and it still has to, monitor and, look at what's, say, right or wrong or what's practical and not practical. And I think that's a great example that we as human beings, as we grow in our abundance, as we increase whatever we're trying to gain, that we still have to have that concept as well. And that's how you survive, right? And I know your company's been around for a while, so that's how it survives, because it does have practicality. It's, pragmatic in terms of like how things should go. And, some companies, young companies will say, oh, if we don't take these returns, they won't buy from us again. So we have to take it. And then that's like the beginning of the end for a lot of people. And again, abundance is knocking on your door. You've got everything. How do we manage with that? And so I think it's important to understand that just because we get something, we still have to keep building our energy, right? You can't make the money and then just, like I was said earlier in the intro, when I was young, I was just gonna like spend it all. And I think in a short period of time, I'd be out of money and then I'd have a really bad habit. Like, how can you burn through that much money? So I think, responsible companies that, have been around for a long time, there is, capability, there's experience, there's wisdom, and all of those things are important, even on a large scale. Even when it's, not your own money, let's say, because, you're working for the company, it's not out of your pocket, but we still have to think a certain way. And I think that's, extremely important as we build abundance. Because a lot of times we will think, oh, we got this much, we'll just get more, and then let's not be as practical, or let's not have as much capability and just assume that it will keep coming in. And I think that's where a lot of people make the mistake. And so it's great that Vivian, you had that story to share with us. And I wish your company the best, that they'll figure out a win-win situation, and you guys can take care of your customer, but yet on the other hand, allow yourselves to continue to grow and do well. So thank you, Vivian. Okay, moving on to the next section. Amy, can you read with me from page 131? Let me make an adjustment here.
Yes, I see it. Uh-huh.
Okay, and it looks like I start. First, embracing abundance strategy. Build up your capability and strength. That is why, if his company has not reached the level of capability and he forced himself to take up the order, chances are the company may not be able to meet the requirements and will end up in a crisis.
That is unfair. Why would big companies want to leverage their size and power to impose such unfair clauses and create difficulties to small companies? Why can't they give them more of a chance?
It is also unfair to make such remarks. Why would a big company be a big company, be as big of a company as they are today? They must have achieved something great before they became big. If you think in a different angle, many small companies end up being big and successful after they have sailed through with the big companies.
That is true. There are many success stories too, but why would some companies face such difficulties, like what my friend's company faced?
Think carefully. Some companies grabbed and leveraged well on the opportunity. They prospered and grew after they were successful in their dealings with large companies. Why? Because they have done their homework prior to the arrival of the opportunity, right?
Indeed.
If you want growth in your company, but you have not equipped your company with the needed capacity and capability, and you thought all you needed was the right customers. However, if you are lacking in growth and enhancement, do you think you have enough bullets in your company to negotiate?
No, we do not have enough.
When a company is lacking bullets to negotiate, the company is lacking in the scale for growing big. With this, even though abundance comes knocking at your door, you will not be able to include it into your territory and will have to send it away.
What a waste. This is so close to the saying you often share with us, save for a rainy day. In whichever level of life, we should not procrastinate, but take precautions to prepare ourselves well in advance. Otherwise, once the chance of a lifetime comes to us and we are not ready to grab the opportunity and miss it, we will end up being regretful and grievous. Sorry.
Hence, there is a close relationship between our ability and capability with having abundance. Be it individual or a corporation, the only time to get abundance is when you are fully equipped and endowed. The process involves the proper preparation and the level of ambition of the individual or the organization. So when abundance comes knocking at the door, you can immediately react and grab hold of it.
No wonder people always say, opportunity is only given to people who have prepared well.
When the opportunity has not arrived, do not be frustrated. Utilize your time to prepare and enhance your capability. Do not just talk without action. Okay, you can pause there. So as we read through this section, you think about capability, wisdom, and being ready. It really kind of sets the tone, for the question to ask yourself: are you? Whatever your abundance is, are you ready for it? And for a lot of people, I think the quick answer is yes, absolutely. Bring it. that type of a mentality. But like with the example of the smaller company dealing with the big company, they maybe were not ready. And if they had done it, they may have jeopardized their future. And so same goes with us. And if you think about that, like, what does that mean? What preparation? I can only, use some examples or experiences that I've had. And a lot of what I've learned through Super Life Secret Codes and, this pathway towards abundance is to, it's all boils down to the Super Life Secret Code system of energy management. In life, we're going to get lots of incoming energy, if you will, whether it's money, love, opportunity, whatever you want. It's a type of energy and it will come your way. The question is, what will you do with it? Like I mentioned before, when I was young, my mindset was different, and I 100% know that if I had received all of that money energy, I would have burned through it. And that may not be the worst of it. So think about that. If you suddenly stumble upon a windfall of money and you get it and then you spend it all, the spending of it all and then having no money may not be, the worst thing. Because some people say, hey, easy come, easy go type of thing. But the thing that I feel that is the dangerous part of it is that action, the kind of habit. If you create a habit that you can just take these things and then just, spend it and it's gone, that is, I think the most dangerous, and that's a huge leak. And that's the thing, we have to be aware of in everything we do. To achieve abundance, we cannot leak. Because even with abundance, with unlimited amounts, if you leak faster than it comes in, it just becomes a process. I think there was this, in one of the stories Master Sun shares, it's like having a bucket holding water with a hole at the bottom of it. So no matter how long you just keep putting water in, it'll keep leaking out. And in a lot of cases, that constant leak could get bigger until it, say breaks the bucket. So we want to be cautious of the habits that we create. And that's going to be the fastest way to not get to abundance if you have a habit for wastage. This is something that I think for a lot of us, we have to, be careful of. The wastage could be recklessness. The wastage could be, being kind of irresponsible in a sense. You just, indulging yourself, if that's what it is. Or the recklessness could be not knowing, buying something that has extremely, high service costs or maintenance costs, things like that. Like, people get rich and they buy a jet, and then they don't realize that to maintain that jet is so much, and just to fly the jet is so much. And if their money is not constant or enough, that's a huge leak. So these are things that, we have to really be cautious of. The thing about, are you ready and how do you get ready? A lot of it is kind of preparation. You have to have infrastructure in place. I think about my own kind of dealing with business and different people. I've shared before that, I have a very wealthy client, and I don't necessarily have a ton of practice or experience working with a person of this, say, financial level. However, I've had a lot of experience working with, different companies and other, some people that have a good amount of money. But I think the thing that helped me prepare the most was dealing with people. Regardless of how much money you have, people still kind of tick a certain way. So my preparation along the way was, meeting people, trying to learn how to work with people, unknowingly kind of manage that energy. It wasn't until Super Life Secret Codes that I realized that, kind of put a label on exactly what this is, the energy management. What do you say to people to make them feel a certain way? Sometimes we get the job done, but we don't make someone feel comfortable afterwards. They kind of just feel like job done, right? Whereas sometimes you can do something and then the job is done and the person really feels something special afterwards. So think about like a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. You order, your food comes, you eat, food was great, and you leave. Sometimes it's uneventful. You don't remember who the waiter or waitress is. Other times, something about that waiter or waitress, they really go out of their way to talk to you, get to know you, share something, and then you remember this person. And then you remember the positive experience you have with them. So their practice and preparation allows them to be ready for more good things to come. And I think that's something that we also have to be, aware of, that we are preparing ourselves for abundance. Because can you imagine if you're telling yourself every day, the world is so mean and so bad, and I'll never get this, and I'll never get this. Just like the order in the story that we just read, if that big abundance comes, you're not ready for it, and you'll be forced to turn it down. Or you'll be overwhelmed, or you won't believe, and then that opportunity will just go. So I think as we read this section, Master Sun and the whole book is saying abundance is so simple, but there's some things that we have to do to make ourselves ready for it, to allow it to come into our life, not just show up at the front door, look in and say no one's home and move on to the next place. You need to be ready to welcome it. And I think that's something we all have to ask ourselves as a person. Are you a welcoming type person to another person? So imagine, abundance can be another person. And I learned that through this client of mine, that for some people, it could be a whole year's work that my client, one transaction could equal that or even more than a year's work. So abundance can be achieved through one person. The question is, are you prepared? Is your energy right? Are you skeptical? Is your data saying these people don't exist? They're unicorns. And so the people that act like they could be this way or this, high level, they're fake, or they're negative, or they're crooked, or they're criminals, that type of mentality. If you fill your database with that type of data, the guy or girl, billionaire person could come knocking on your door to do business with you, and you will probably overlook it. You won't believe it. You will think there's something wrong, and you'll probably kind of, waste that opportunity. So that's also a preparation. It doesn't have to be like in the story, accompanied. Do you have enough capital? Do you have enough, labor? Do you have enough storage space? Like all of those things are kind of logistics and whatnot of a business operation. But before that even happens, you as an individual, something that you can control day to day is how do we interact with others, and the energy that we give off, is it like an abundance of positive energy, or is it an abundance of negative energy? So I think it's really critical that we recognize this, and we have to understand how people feel about us and the things we do. And that will determine if that particular person one day could be your kind of good angel or whatever you want to call it, that, brings you abundance. And so from my own experience, I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful that some of the things I learned in the past, and then having Super Life Secret Codes kind of put it all together and make it a clear, system, that when this person came to me, I wasn't skeptical, I wasn't judgmental, I didn't have negative things. I was grateful to have an opportunity to work with this person, and I didn't even know to what extent his capacity was. And not, only until we started getting into things did I realize, wow, I am, I've been handed a unicorn, one of those unusual, you don't imagine, it doesn't come around very often. And so I'm, again, really grateful that I had Super Life Secret Codes, the training of energy management, to be able to handle this, and to, when reaching into my data, I was able to connect with good data. And I think that good data makes the client, the other person, feel comfortable. And from there, you collaborate, the collaboration can become a great thing and have a tremendous result, which it did. And so again, I'm really grateful for that opportunity. But it's so important that we are prepared, and Super Life Secret Codes really does provide us the tools to be prepared. So I highly recommend, everybody read and, learn about Super Life Secret Codes, practice it, and you will see that when these good opportunities come, not only does it stop in front of you and wait for you to pick it up, you will be able to pick it up and you will be able to grow it. And I think that's the most fulfilling and rewarding. So that is my sharing. We'll now move on to the next section, and Amy and I will be reading from page 133. Amy, I think you start.
Okay, so how should we enhance our capability?
Look at the successful entrepreneurs or successful people in society. Their stories are all rounded and diverse. People who want quick fortune hold rather shallow knowledge and short vision. They will not buy this concept.
Why is it so?
In their very narrow vision, they always thought they were well prepared because they did not know how vast the world was, and they set very low goals for themselves. But in the end, they were defeated by the reality of the world.
So it is difficult for people with short vision to attain success. Does that mean they have not done enough preparation?
Yes, on top of this, it also means they have a low level of wisdom. They immerse themselves into a state where they are always going after the dream, and they complain a lot. People with wisdom, before abundance and bliss arrive at their doorstep, will work hard to set themselves up in all aspects. They enhance their capability and experiences and widen their outlook and vision. From time to time, they identify their own weaknesses and work towards improving them.
Master, it seems the most direct basis to measure a person's capability is to look at his salary level, correct?
Indeed, the salary level reflects one's level of experience and capability. This is the most realistic measure. For example, a full-time engineer will get much better pay compared to a part-time worker.
Okay, the more capable you are, the better you get.
But the formation of one's capability has a close relationship with his outlook of life, his attitude, his thinking, and his logic. When you are in a small company, you may not feel that strong. However, when you are in a medium-sized company, you can get a stronger feeling.
What kind of feeling? The disparity between people? What can we see?
When everyone is on the same platform, the ability of everyone can be obvious, especially when you have numerous people together. Each one's strengths will stand out clearly. The one with the highest level of capability and intelligence will shine.
Indeed.
On the contrary, in the realistic workplace, if one has a low level capability, judgment, and logical concept, he will ruin his career path. The reason is because he has not prepared well. The good things that come knocking at our door are also assessments on whether we have done our work to prepare ourselves. Often, chances just come in a split second. Whether you can be complimented by your boss or seen as a high performer in your company lies in that second and is a reflection of whether you have exhibited and utilized your capability to an excellent level.
You cultivate what you like to harvest. The world is fair.
Once you understand this concept, remember, if you miss one opportunity, you may have another one coming. If you have missed 2 or 3 opportunities, you may have missed it forever. Okay, we can pause there. Amy, would you like to share?
Yes, this one particular section, the title is Build Your Capability and Strength. And Master Sun keeps emphasizing on the importance of capability and strength because each person has to up their value. In the material world, it's a very competitive world, and the survivor of the fittest, it's in a way that the people look for the weakest link and they tend to bully the weaker ones. And that's just the nature of the world. So if we want to complain or cry about it, there's nothing we can do. That's how the paradigm or the nature instinct. So instead of blaming other people or crying out loud, thinking that life is not fair, Master Sun teach us self-reliance, meaning that we have to build up our capabilities and strength and increase our value. Therefore, we gain the proper respect from people. And this includes in marriage and also at the workplace, everywhere you name it, even in a family structure. If you are someone who's always vulnerable, constantly needs help from other relatives, they will help you to a certain extent. Eventually, people are going to get fed up with you and tell you to, you're on your own. So we have to learn how to be realistically improve our skills. So Master San teach us that as a cultivator, we don't just pay attention to cultivation because we are living in the material world. And all the things that we need to learn, all the skills in a real life, we have to pick them up as well. For example, as a person, we have to learn like money management. And if we are in marriage, we need to learn to manage our marriage. And as a person, we're in the people society. We need to learn people's skill. All these things are necessary. If we tell ourselves that, oh, I'm only into spirituality, I'm, cultivating and chant and meditate all day long. But when we're interacting with people, we're constantly getting points deducted from our life, then this life is not perfect, it's not complete. So we have to take care of the realistic, the material aspect, and also cultivation. Oftentimes, cultivators will maybe go out, volunteer, and do rituals and so forth, and maybe they're too busy. They focus on one area and they kind of overlook or ignore their family situation, the tidiness of the home, or the relationship with family members, and left family members with frustration or anger towards this person. And Master San says that is not right. We have to take care of take care of our basis, because family is our foundation of all things. If the foundation is weak and we can try to build a big building, eventually this building will collapse. So, and also, for example, managing our marriage. If our spouse is looking forward to, good meals, hot meals, and we don't know how to cook, possibly we need to learn a few dishes. And Master San says it's so easy these days. Modern people are very lucky because we can go on social media, YouTube, we can learn so many things. If you cannot do one thing, you can learn it. You want to learn how to put on makeup, voila, it's on social media. If you want to learn how to build whatever thing at home, fix things, home improvement, we can learn it as well. There's so many things we can learn. So never say that I can't, or we always have to rely on someone else. If we always ask for favors, eventually people think, hey, this person has no value. Then each time they have that mindset about us, it's a deduction. So even towards our, significant others or our children, people, we have to keep upping our values. So that's very important, an important notion. And another thing that I listened to what Vivian was sharing about is, even within a company, a coworker made a mistake and the company quickly found a solution. Somebody came up with a formula to detect mistakes, and that is so amazing because we have to have that wonderful GPS, which Master San always teaches us. He says, do not sit around and complain or point the finger because that does no help. It does not fix anything, and it also applies to our own personal issues. We can blame everyone and we actually believe it, but eventually we don't learn from our mistake. If there's a conflict, there is an issue. If we learn something or improve ourselves, and we can better deal with the situation next time. So always self-reflect is what it's almost like a SOP. Step one is self-reflection, and then there's so many things we can catch, and we find so many things that we can learn. And at the end result is we gain, plus, 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 so many more skills. And also, what I learned from Master Sun is to turn up our awareness and GPS, because in the past, when there is a mistake and we just think, okay, there is a mistake, and I'm so bad luck, or it's somebody else's fault, and I move on with no learning whatsoever. But these days, because with the mechanism of looking to myself and GPS, I have to find something. I know, even though possibly somebody else make bigger mistake, but maybe I have 20 or maybe I only have 10, but it doesn't matter. I can take this 10 or 20 and improve myself upon, and then I gain something from this harsh lesson. So I learned to do that, and which is wonderful way to humble myself, because not wanting to admit anything, it's not a good thing. And I recently, there was our other workshop, and somebody hasn't seen Ryan for quite some time. And he came in and he said, hey, Ryan, you know what? Today I listened to your sharings and I'm absolutely impressed by what I witnessed. And he said, because I have seen your growth in your sharing. I can see the depth of understanding and perspective of life you have elevated. So that's exactly that. And so Ryan did a sharing. He said in Super Life Secret Codes, due to love and gratitude, because we have gratitude towards things. Maybe before we think we're the best and I'm number one, so I know everything. But now with love and gratitude is to thank somebody when you want to always have gratitude towards someone. So you have to turn on your lens or the sensor to look for something that you can be grateful for from another person. So once we keep practicing love and gratitude, it automatically softens our heart from I am better than you, then let me see what I can find, or you are so great, and this is why I'm grateful to you because of what. So when we keep practicing it, the heart is softened, then we humble ourselves with our heart like a door. It's open up, and all of a sudden we can absorb knowledge before we held on to our knowledge so so close and said this is mine, and I don't listen. But now because our heart is softened, our heart is open, and our perspective is, what can I learn from you? What can I learn from you? And all of a sudden, because we absorb more, the whole universe is our teacher. Everybody is our teacher. So I see that Ryan is willing to listen and learn from all things. That's why his perspective and his on in terms of realization, it's different. So learning, my key is constantly picking up, learning and self-reflect. And that is a way to improve and to pick up our skills and capabilities. That's my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, for your reading and sharing. And something about if you think about abundance and you think about Super Life Secret Codes and all that Master Sun has taught, we talk about gratitude all the time, and clearly, I'm grateful for all of this. And one of the things I realized, having the opportunity to do workshops and to talk to other people, and of course to work on myself, frequently, it is all about energy management and data. I was talking to someone this morning, and his data. This is a type of person. He's very pragmatic, like a programmer, a lot of processes, and he's filled his mind with all kinds of data, some of which are conspiracies of the economy, the government, all these different things. And when he first came in, he would talk about all of these pretty high level, like economic policies and different things, but with a conspiracy twist to it. So that's the data that this person's working with. Whenever there's doubt, whenever there's uncertainty, he'll fill it with the data that he has. And the data he has is not great. And I realized that I have another friend, a relative, who is also like this. So think about it. In life, there's always going to be a gap. Every moment as we're talking to someone, there's a gap. And either that person fills it, or we fill it, or collectively we fill the gap. And you have to be the judge as to what the result is. But with a lot of these people that have this data, they fill it with bad data right away. So if you're talking to them and you leave a gap, they will fill it with negative data. And then before you know it, you're like combating, you're arguing with this person unknowingly, because the data that you left, like in conversation, I may ask you a question, we go back and forth, I may think about something, those are all little gaps, and then these people will fill it with this data. And then it's very hard to unwind that, because that becomes your positioning. Even though we weren't in a position to create different sides, we end up being heads and tails. And this is kind of a challenge. And so I realized the data we carry in ourselves is so important, because that's what we'll fill life with. And for me, I recently did an experiment. I had a choice to dislike this person I work with, and I chose to kind of dislike him. And I realized that when I did that, I highlighted everything he did wrong. Like, you don't even look right today, right? And the word you used is bad. Like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, we're professionals, we're this level. Like, I started to think negatively about everything. And then one day I was, listening to Master Sun, I was writing a journal about how people, like the thing he did wrong. I was writing a journal like he should know better, blah, 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 all this stuff. And as I was writing it, before I sent it, I had finished it. And then I said to myself, delete, 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 all the way back to Master Sun. And I rewrote it saying like, I have to change. I cannot allow someone's action once to make me label this person and treat this person this way, because now I'm just adding negative energy. Like, really nothing this person can do was right. If he bought a brand new car, I'd say, this guy's trying to brag or something, like it would just be one of those moments and constantly. So I realized that, yes, we really have to use these tools to control the data that we have, because otherwise it's really easy in the world we live in to say everybody out there is a bad person, a cheater, this political, the policies, the political parties, all of these different people, the races, it's really easy to get caught up in that. And if we allow, say, like the news to fill our data gaps, you can imagine the picture that it draws when you let that fill in. Or if you let people who are very angry, you take their information. And I know Amy and I have talked about this. We deal with a few people that are very angry. And so when you talk to them, they fill in the gaps with what we would normally leave as like a neutral or even a good thing. They will fill it in with an evil person, right? It's like, that's what they're working with. And the other day in our workshop, we talked about virtue. And I think when we lack virtue, Master Sun said it, if you don't have virtue, you're at 50%. So if you think about that, if I don't have virtue and I think I'm the greatest guy on the planet, I'm only half of that because I'm missing something. And then one thing I realize is that we also have to allow and recognize that everybody as a human being has some value already, just as a human being. And so even if they did some bad things, that's not defining them 100%. That's just a moment. That's a series of time, maybe, or period of time. But we have to remember that they are still, there's value in them as a human being. And I personally forget about that sometimes because I listen to someone complain about someone and then I draw this picture, oh, that person's so bad. But that's just a period of time and, certain actions they've done. And I do fail to realize the goodness of that person. And then if you allow yourself to do that, the world we live in is not a very great place. But if you recognize that everybody inherently is good as a human being, and then, however they act to you, it may be a bonus. You may realize this person is incredibly great. Or if they do something off, it's not as bad as you want to make it. So for me, this really dictates the data that I carry, that I can look at someone and treat them positive and have appreciation, because otherwise it's very difficult to appreciate people you don't like. Try that. And I mean, for me, it's been a struggle because I look at the bad things. You pick it out, every little thing they do. So I'm really grateful for Master Sun's teachings because each day when we're reading and learning, there's something that can be taught and learned about gratitude and, having the right energy, managing it right, and then getting the outcome you want in life. So as we said in the beginning of the show and throughout the show, abundance is so simple. It's really just a matter of, are you ready to, receive it? And are you preparing yourself to do so? So again, I want to thank Vivian and Amy for the reading and sharing. I want to thank all the participants online. And last but not least, I want to thank Master Sun for providing us these great tools to improve our lives. Have a great rest of your night in the US and a great rest of your day in Asia.